Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Big Three, the podcast where we unpack the biggest stories, insights, and shifts shaping influencer marketing and the creator economy. I'm your host, Ceci. Joining me today is Leah Chaney, the newly appointed Director of Influencer at CYLNDR Studios, a creative and production shop based in Los Angeles that operates at the intersection of strategy, design, filmmaking, and influencer. We wanted to bring Leah on because she just stepped into her new role with a very clear mandate: embed creators into the creative process from the very start. Not at the execution stage, not as distribution layer, but as authors of the work itself. So today we'll go deeper into what it actually takes to make that shift happen inside a studio, where brands are losing creative value without realizing it, and what creator authorship really means when it's more than just the talking point. Leah, welcome to the pod. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Ceci. That was a beautiful introduction. I'm so excited to be here and I'm so excited for this chat. It's timely, and I think, we need to be having it more. So I'm happy to be here, honored to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's a pleasure having you on the pod. Leah, I just gave everyone a quick intro, but I'd love to hear how you describe yourself in your own words these days.
Yeah, I was going to say you did such a good job, but I would say it's pretty repetitive. But can I just bring you along with me and you introduce me? But I would say, hello, I'm Leah Chaney. Yes, I am leading, influencer at CYLNDR Studios. And I've really spent my career at the intersection of media, entertainment, and influencer marketing, helping shape the world's biggest brands and helping them navigate this rapidly evolving media and creator landscape. I would say over the years, that has looked like working across creator and talent partnerships, branded content, and creative strategy, always with a focus on how culture is shaping consumer behavior. And today, in my role and what I've always been focused on the last couple of years is the future of the creator economy and what is happening as the lines between entertainment, media, influences, as they all are starting to blur. As we all know, creators are evolving from content producers into cultural architects. They're building businesses, entertainment franchises, and so that's the focus of my career. That's who I am. But I guess to be a little bit more clear, I would say I'm a storyteller and a craftsperson, and that's the foundation of everything I do, and that's the
Love that.
belief that is shared across CYLNDR Studios.
Yeah. Well, I want to go back to something that you mentioned because I think most people in influencer never set a foot inside a production environment, but you did through, collaborations with Netflix, Paramount, Hulu. What did that background teach you that you couldn't have learned staying on just the partnership side?
As we know, there's so many facets, there's so many departments in marketing. And when you don't understand every single function, it's hard to really make the best work. And so being able to be on, the creative side where the concept is development, on the partnership side where you're building those relationships and you're briefing and co-collaborating, and then to be on the production where it all comes to life, the actual tactical and functional things, the budgets, the locations, all that, to understand how that all works and intersects. I just think you have a better understanding, a more holistic
Absolutely.
understanding, and you just get a better, cleaner product.
Absolutely. Well, let me ask you this, Leah. When you look at your background and everything that those years built in you, what are you carrying into this new role most intentionally, and what are you consciously leaving behind?
I would say intentionally, I'm just bringing more boldness. How we approach
I
influencer,
like that.
it has been across. I've worked across a few different agencies and different capacities, and a lot of times we have been focused on what I'm starting to call stock content and creative, where influencer hasn't really reached its heights. I mean, that's due to a lot of different factors, but I'm going into it saying this is what our vision is. This is how we're working with creators and letting brands know how we work so that the creators and the brands that want to work with us already know what they're going to get. And what I'm leaving behind, I, I like to focus on the positive. So I'm focused again on this going into the new era of creator. But if I
Okay, I
had
like
to
that
pick
thinking.
something, I would say if I had to pick something, I would just say I'm leaving behind scale and focusing on quality.
Okay, love that. Okay, now that we understand where you're coming from, I want to go deeper into how you see the landscape right now. I know that and I think I saw this on a LinkedIn post that you mentioned. You've said the industry has treated influencer as an output rather than a creative discipline. Can you unpack that for us?
Again, I think brands, and as when you work with brands, you know the internal workings of it all, but everything is moving quickly. We're trying to stay, in line with the speed of culture, and so it starts to be a scale thing, which I just kinda said previously. And instead of it being a real creative discipline where we actually we're taking our time to build with the creator and really tell a story, it's more like, how many assets can we get out? How many views? How many people are gonna actually see it? And I think that is an ethos that we are trying to get away from as an industry, or I hope that's what we're trying to get away from, and that's exactly what we're getting away from at Cylinders, where we're not focused on a whole bunch of content for the number of views. It's like, is this content that we know people are gonna resonate, that people are gonna care about? And I always say, and I'll keep saying it, like, I don't ever really use the word authentic because, again, we are paying people to make content, but we are creating content that is purposeful, that there is a reason, and that we all feel good about, and that consumers feel good about watching and watching repeatedly.
Absolutely. Well, a quick follow-up on that, on brands treating creators, influencer as an output. If you had to name one single, like the single most expensive mistake they make because of that, what would it be?
I think I would say the most expensive mistake that we always make is treating it like a media asset. So, we talk about at Cylinder Studios, the handoff tax, where things are going through tons of revisions through people who don't even understand what we're trying to make, who maybe haven't even worked in influencer, but they're brand people, they're media people, those people having a say. And so it gets watered down. There's so many revisions. Creators get frustrated. And then you don't really get what we went to the creator for. Their realness, their connection to their audience, and then their actual creativity. They are producers, they're filmmakers. They know how to tell a story, and they know how to tell the right story for the audience we're trying to connect with. And so we
Yeah,
forget that when we're trying to follow a brief and put talking points and prompt features and everything into a piece of content, it starts to lose its real magic, and that
absolutely.
costs
That,
dollar wise, and then just you know philosophically.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Leah, let's get into, the your new role, the decision to join Cylinder and then straight into the work. You also recently wrote that your entire career you had been searching for a place that, aired your ethos. What made you realize that Cylinder was it?
They care about, like, we look at our tenets and, like, kinda what guides our work across design, across production. It really is a dedication and a commitment to craft, and that line, that ethos, that's what I was sold in the first kinda meeting that I had with some of our leadership, was that I want influencer to be treated as a craft, not as an assembling line where we're just turning out content and assets, and there's no real craftsmanship behind it. It doesn't feel like it was handled with care, and I feel like that's a lot of content we're starting to see because, again, we are getting these budgets, we're getting these briefs, and we're just making the content kinda in the vein of we're just making it to make it. And so what I loved about Cylinder is that they have a standard and they stick to that standard. We're not just taking clients to take clients. We're not just working with people just to work with them. It's like, are we on the same page that we're trying to create something and produce something that feels right and feels artful? And I do get really heady when I talk about this stuff, but I think that's where we're going. We talk about what really resonates, what is entertainment, and what is influence. It's not just consumers know, influencers know, they'll make the content because, again, there's money involved, but you're not watching that content. You're not going back to that content. You're not sharing it. You're not sending it to your friends in the group chat. And so pairing the production capability with a real dedication to craftsmanship is what got me excited. And I knew that this was a place that I wanted to continue to build my vision of what influencer looks like.
I love that. Let's go back to the mandate again that we sort of hinted at before. Again, your mandate is to sort of formalize and scale Cylinder's production first approach, embedding creators into campaigns from the very beginning rather than at the execution stage. Walk me through what does that formalizing something like that actually involve, and where do you actually start? Both from like an operational side and also a strategic side.
Yeah, the strategic side and the operational, I think, is as simple as getting outside more and building those relationships. And so,
Okay.
again, I've been in this over a decade now. I've worked at agencies, and a lot of times the relationships are as deep as an email thread. You're reaching out, you're negotiating, you're doing the contracts, but it's like, are we really going out and understanding what creators are doing when there isn't a brand partnership involved? How are we helping them bring those ideas and goals and dreams to life? How are we bringing them into the sphere and giving them information and education on just how the process works so they feel more empowered? And I think I haven't been able to do that in a lot of my roles because again, we are so focused on scale and quantity. And so for me, like the first step, simple and clear, is getting outside, making relationships past email threads, and actually going to events, showing up for creators, and building those real purposeful
Uh-huh.
connections. And that's how, again, then they want to help us build up what we're building. We're helping them and vice versa. Because we do know we're getting away from transactional relationships where we're just paying them the post. But transactional is like we're both in it together and they're helping us, we're helping them. And
Yeah,
that's how we're going to get to this kind of them being embedded earlier in the process. And then brands knowing that's our process. Like you give us a brief, we're going to bring our creator partners that we already have a relationship in to help. Now they may or may not be in the campaign. That will be different. That's I won't go into like on every single thing. It'll vary. But again, we know that we have like a creator voice and a creator lens on every single thing that we do.
absolutely. I want to go back to the handoff tags that you mentioned before. I know that Cylinder talks about this a lot, that creative dilution that happens every time an idea passes through another deck, another department, another round of edits. From your experience, where do brands lose the most value in that gap or in that process?
There's been many times that you see an amazing concept come through that we know it's going to resonate with the audience. It feels so on point and on brand to the creator that we chose to be a part of the campaign. And then it gets diluted because it goes through so many departments internally on the brand side and even sometimes on the agency side. Maybe the accounts team has a POV, then you have legal, and then you have brand creative. And then if it, it goes crazy when there's multiple brands under one brand. So then every brand team has a different POV on what their angle is. And so you get something that really starts to feel like an ad and not a piece of creator content. And that the whole point of creator content, we're trying to get away from ads. You can do that in paid media, but when we're talking about organic influencer content, we don't want it to feel like an ad. And that's what always ends up happening is because somebody's like, oh no, we need one more talking point in there. We need one more feature focused on. And so then it's like, this isn't creative. This isn't fun. This doesn't feel good. And that's what they post, but then it's like then the numbers may not, match up with what we intended, and that's because, again, this doesn't make sense for the audience that we were trying to connect with.
Yeah, this question might sound obvious, but how do you prevent this from happening, that dilution?
It's easier said than done because we do know how, we know how brands work, we know how agencies work, but it really is about making smaller groups of trusted voices. I don't It's about not adding more people to the process, but having a small tight group where everyone's aligned on what we're trying to do and understanding those guardrails. And those are the people kind of approving and having eyes on the content before it goes out to the world.
Yeah. Well, let's focus on the brands because I think that they often say they already involve creators early. But what does early actually mean in practice? And when a creator is genuinely in the room from the start, how does that change the dynamic for everyone else working alongside them?
Yeah, they say they include or embed creators early on because they're like, we might have
We
built
check with
a
them.
social campaign, yeah, or they built a whole TV campaign, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna have influencers amplify this on their channel," so they're kinda involved early on, and it looks a lot of different ways, but truly having a creator involved from the very beginning is having them involved with that brief that we kinda co-collaborate and co-create together, where we have their input and we know how even if we are doing a 360 campaign, we know how it's gonna come to life through influencers because we had that creator involved and like, "This makes sense, this doesn't make sense." They can kinda help us set up those parameters, and I've done that a few times, and it always works the best because then the other creators that we get involved that may not have been a part of the briefing stage, it just makes more sense to them because there's a language and a rhythm that creators follow and how they create, and when they're involved at the very beginning, it just flows that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's something that I don't think gets, asked enough. What does a creator actually need from a brand to do their best work and how often do brands actually provide it?
That is a good
I
question.
see your face.
That is a good
Smiling.
question. I think if we were living in a perfect world, we would just give our creators more trust. We would give them autonomy to go out and build the thing that we're asking them to build without so much hand-holding and strict guardrails. And in most times, I would say about 80% of the time, there is no real trust in the creator. They're the output. This is just output of what we're trying to the campaign. There is no real authorship. There is no real autonomy. And then as we know, the creative suffers from that. And we've been talking about this years and years and years, and it doesn't really change. And I think that's why it's about being very intentional on the kind of brands that you work with. So you can start to build more proof points because a lot of the big ones, like there is a lot of, there's legal ramifications and there's a lot of things that go into why brands may not be able to give creators the trust that they need. But again, there's ways to work around that. When we come to an agency like Cylinder or a lot of the agencies, we understand all those legal loopholes and things that we're trying to stay away from. So let us handle that part to make sure that we're in line with the things that we need to be aligned with. But then the creator really has the actual free reign to go and create something that they know will make sense for their
Yeah,
audience.
yeah. Yeah, let me ask you this. This is an hypothetical situation where you would be a brand marketer working with creators. What is the single first thing that you would change to really put creators front and center of the work that you're doing?
So what we're actually building at CYLNDR Studios is what we're calling like a creator bench where we have I don't want to call it a bench, like a creator board where these are our trusted
Okay,
board, just like institution, a corporate institution. They have boards who kind of implement and help build and shape how they're showing up to the marketplace and how they grow. And like that's what we're trying to build at Cylinder, where we actually are informed by the creators who do this day in and day out every single day.
love that. Yeah, I think we covered a lot of ground today, but before we wrap things up, I want to zoom out one last time. Tell us what is your primary focus for the rest of 2026, and what would make you look back at this, first chapter at Cylinder and feel like you built something real.
Yeah, so, like, everything that I said was pretty lofty. It's gonna take time to build. This is not something that you can build. This is real infrastructure and mindset changes across the industry, so it's gonna take some time to build. So in my first year, like, when I look back in January 2027, it's about, like, what relationships have we built? Like, that's my focus for my team, us having infrastructure to really get those creators in the room to
Yep.
build out this board of creators and really getting outside. I'll keep saying that, getting outside and building relationships that are deeper than an email thread.
Yeah. Leah, you mentioned before, I know you, and I also know you've been in the industry for a while now. What excites you most personally about continuing to build in this space right now?
I think we just haven't even scratched the surface on the possibility of creator marketing. And so when I said I've been working my whole career at the kind of convergence of entertainment and creator. That's where we're going. We see it now with, creators having box office hits and now the micro drama
Absolutely.
trend. That's where we're going. Media studios and movie studios, they're gonna look different. Creators are gonna have their own studios. And I think I said this before to someone I was talking to, but like it's gonna be a switch where creators are executives and executives are creators, and like we're all kind of building things that are truly entertaining and engaging and purposeful. It's not going to be your standard the stuff that's going to be out there in the marketplace, and the things that are going to persevere and stand out aren't going to be your stock footage get ready with me videos. It's going to be real IP. It's going to be real series and things that build beyond just a standard brand campaign. And so that excites me because again, my background and my inner self is a real storyteller. I'm a film buff. I was just at Cannes Film Festival a couple weeks ago. And so like that's where I think we're going more of that direction where creators are creators. They're making real
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. I think
Big
that
stories.
shift is already happening at some capacity. I don't know if you agree.
No, it's definitely happening. It's just gonna be happening at a larger scale, and that's gonna be the standard, where brands are gonna be excited. Almost like I think we're gonna go back into our old days of where it was more product placement, where you're working with influencers not to give them a whole bunch of talking points and for it to feel like a branded asset. You're building
Exactly.
real content, entertaining content with them, and then your brand is being seamlessly interweaved into the content, but it's not a focus of the content.
Okay. So it's an exciting future ahead for
I know. I think it's
yeah.
very exciting. I started my career, like, in media and kind of found my way into this slowly but surely, and I think it only continues to grow. The revenue is there. It's there, so it's just about taking more risks and, like I said earlier, going boldly into this future because it hasn't been fully charted yet. Like, it takes ambitious brands, challenger brands to continue to make more of this content, which they are already doing. I think it's just gonna be more and more of that.
Yeah. Well, Leah, last question for you. If you could get every brand marketer listening to this episode to stop doing one thing and start doing one thing tomorrow, what would those two things be?
Let's stop looking at creator content as output, as media placements, and start looking at it as real art and creative.
I like that. Okay. Leah, this has been such a great conversation. I think we covered a lot of ground. I don't know if there's anything else that you want to share with the audience. Any final comments? Anything else?
I think I'll just say it's such an exciting future, and CYLNDR Studios is at the forefront. And if any creators or brands are looking for new partners who, follow this ambition, hit me up.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much again for your time, for sharing your story, your insights, and to everyone listening. Thanks as always for tuning in into the Big Three. We'll be back soon with more conversations and insights from across the creator economy. Bye, Leah. Have a good one.
Thank you, Ceci. Bye.